Now that we have seen 4 years pass, is this Congress able to pass this time around the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, or has that opportunity passed?
I definitely don't think that the opportunity has passed, but as you know, this has been the most dysfunctional and unproductive Congress in the history of modern day Congresses. And I think by the time we're done, we will determine that it's been the most unproductive ever. Nevertheless, I think that there's definitely an opportunity specifically right now as we've seen the militarization of law enforcement on campuses. I think that now this has gone from being just Black Lives Matter, but it's a larger thing that more people can get around. Because one of the things that this legislation does is it does minimize the use of these weapons of war as it relates to our local law enforcement. Another thing that it does, as we've seen these images of students on campuses, is it requires that there be a national registry. So if there is any excessive force or use of force incidents that have taken place, not only would there be a national registry, but also there will be a breakdown on the racial makeup of who it was that was at the hands of it. So I think that this is actually a very opportune time to do this, but I don't have the highest hopes for this House.
Well, it's interesting. I'd like to hear from you more on that, because we've actually seen changes on the state level. We've seen states and municipalities change rules for their police forces. We've seen some ban chokeholds. Some have banned no knock, warrantless, I should say. And the question comes down to why it hasn't happened on the federal level. Why is this Congress incapable?
Yeah, I can't really explain other than we need Hakeem Jeffries as our speaker, and absolutely we can get it out of the House. Because I am a freshman, I don't know what the holdup was in the Senate. I've only heard some rumblings, but until I've had an opportunity to sit down at the table, my best guess is that we were hung up simply because we have to deal with the filibuster. That is my best guess, is that because we didn't have 60 Democrats, we couldn't get it across the finish line.
So it comes down to procedure. I spoke earlier, Congresswoman, with Jonathan Jackson, Congressman from Illinois, about whether he thinks this new Justice and Policing Act can pass through Congress, and the changes that we've seen since George Floyd's murder, following a rush to embrace diversity and inclusion and what some say is a reversion to the past. Here's what he told us.
It seems like everything has changed. It seems to be a complete reversal, if you will, a retreatment and a retrenchment on corporate America's commitment to racial, social, and justice equity. We've seen in the extension of our annual budget of the budget that passed, the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office on Capitol Hill, was removed from out of the building.
Congresswoman, many of the companies that adopted DEI policies since George Floyd's death and in the wake of that tragic incident have dropped them. Others who have kept them are being very quiet about it now. How come?
Yeah, this is, I absolutely agree with my colleague, Congressman Jackson, because unfortunately what we've seen is a backlash. We've seen people that, for whatever reason, harbor what I would consider to be hate in their hearts and a lack of understanding of what DEI is all about. And so what they've done is they've weaponized the government. They've decided that they would go after various companies and corporations, and now we're seeing it on our campuses as well. Unfortunately, we're seeing these moves by these state governments as well to really attack these companies and try to take them under for embracing who we are in this country, which we are a diverse nation. It's actually what makes us the amazing country that we are, is that we are a melting pot and we are a country of immigrants. But some people seem to be threatened by diversity, and instead they have decided to turn what they have decided is a threat on them and make threats on others.
Is it racism?
Well, I mean, yeah. Point blank. I mean, when you look at who it is that's pushing back, it is the Republican Party. And, part of me says that the Republican Party has been co-opted by MAGA. But what we see is this idea that diversity is bad and it's a problem. And these are the same people that had people come on January 6th to the Capitol, and we know we've got the headlines where some of those people that were convicted were neo-Nazis. We know that they had the Proud Boys, and we know that there's been a lack of dissociation with these white supremacy groups. They are now becoming synonymous with who MAGA is, and unfortunately, MAGA is co-opting the Republican Party. You know, I would be happy if this country could get back to a place where we had two functioning real parties of government that just disagreed but believed in governance and respect and could actually meet in the middle and get something done for the American people.
Well, I want to be careful here, Congresswoman, but there's, of course, an element of MAGA in the House of Representatives and on the Oversight Committee. And last week you were involved in a bit of a spat with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not the first to play this back for you during an oversight hearing regarding contempt, potentially, for Attorney General Merrick Garland. Let's remind our listeners and viewers with a part of that conversation.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling, if someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad-built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
I don't know if you had a chance to tell the chairman what you meant by that, Congresswoman, but you've suggested since then that Marjorie Taylor Greene's comments were racist in the words that she chose to describe your personal appearance. This has come down to a level that's actually disrupting the functioning of Congress. What needs to happen here next?
Yeah, we just need someone that will actually enforce the rules as they're laid out in the House. You know, it's interesting because I now know that the Republicans are very well aware of what it takes to actually enforce the rules, because that happened last week. But then this week we saw where Ranking Member McGovern, who serves on Rules Committee, for whatever reason, they shut him down, and all he was doing was addressing things that are actually factual, things that could be Googled. I'm sure Bloomberg has covered the fact that the former president is currently in trial in New York. And he referenced the reason that my hearing was so late at night was because they decided to go up. Nothing that he said was not factual, but for whatever reason, they said he was engaging in personalities with the former president, and he never, ever said anything that was non-factual, and they shut him down. And he was not allowed to speak anymore on the House floor.
His words were stricken from the record, Congresswoman. That's right, and the words that you admitted, along with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, were allowed to stay on the record, even though those personalities were two House members. Why the double standard?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and to be clear, I actually asked a parliamentary procedure specifically because I wanted the chairman to think about the hypocrisy and how bad this could go. What we've seen out of Marjorie Taylor Greene is that she's never held accountable. And so what she does is she continues to act out, whether it's bringing pornography into the Oversight Committee and showing those pictures, whether it's showing up to the State of the Union address, not only in a hat, but a MAGA hat. You're not allowed to wear hats at all. It defies the rules of decorum. Whether it's yelling at the president, whether it was this particular State of the Union or the previous one, or whether it's literally cussing out her colleague on the House floor, Lauren Boebert. Like, she does all these things and no one ever holds her to account. And it's a problem. The only time she was held accountable was when the Democrats were in control of the House and she was kicked off of her committees for her behavior. And so, you know, I don't expect anything better out of Marjorie, but I do expect better out of my chairman. And it is my hope and goal that he will do better going forward. I will say that we had another hearing on Tuesday and she failed to show up, and the hearing went over a lot smoother.
You haven't talked about that in person with her, I presume, right?
No, we don't talk. We don't talk.